Hey there, Weavers. Just a heads up, a little disclaimer before we get this one started. This next arc, but particularly this episode, focuses on the Undying Empire. And we will be building in character an Imperial city, meaning that we are the bad guys. So there are some content warnings coming up, most of them related to war crimes, oppression, undeath, murder, violence, and all sorts of things. It is done in a sort of goofy tongue in cheek way. But if that is not the kind of content you want to listen to, you might sit this one out. Thanks.
Now, where was I? Oh yes, go birds. And do you know how we settled on the bone white and the verdant green for the Bratons? Well, the white speaks for itself. Of course, you'll have to remember that the bird skeleton was still up in the cliff at that time. But the green, that was originally mentioned to be a nod to the fertility of the lands around these parts. But to me, well, that bar is near and dear to my working hard and my playing hard. And have you ever noticed what color bottles that beer comes in? Of course, for every bit of playing hard, you have to work hard too. We all bleed red, black, and purple for the glory of the Undying Emperor. But in this town, bottle and bone. Of course, Six Knives wasn't the only thing going on back in the first half of the first year of my tenure as the Grand Chair of the City Planning Department. We, of course, had rather fervent debates as to what was to be done to the native population, the ones who used to inhabit that part of town south of the hill, the one with the big wall around it. That was Lovey Third Class's idea, actually. The wall, I mean. You see, when you've got folks who aren't so sure about the Pax Vitae Infinitum, it's important that you keep them safe until they can see the truth. See that they are, in fact, loyal Imperial subjects. Everybody is deep down, even if we forget sometimes and need some reminding. That was in truth the reason Clarissa LaFleur proposed the construction of the Redemption Resurrection facility up there near the mine entrance. Everyone is a loyal subject of the Undying Emperor, one way or another. Now, by the time we had recessed and returned to our duties, those ingrates we was trying to protect and civilize were in need of further reminding. Fortunately, Lupin Magmalo and his men were ready to swoop in and do that reminding. Or maybe it'd be better to say that they was loping in, but that's really neither here nor there. Look, the point is, under the eyeless gaze of that beautiful blurred skeleton, battles were fought and blood was spilled in the righteous fury of the glory of the Undying Emperor. I do say that is what makes the grass bottle green, what keeps the Bone Cathedral shining white, and what makes the fighting spirit of the Pratons and their fans the envy of every other team the Empire over. Glory to the Undying Emperor. Go birds!
Well, I have terrific news. What has transpired is exactly in line with my goals regardless. Because I had plans to build a barracks right next to the Six Knives field. The soldiers and militia members can use the Six Knives field as a mustering field. We can raise the citizens to defend their own lands and bring in soldiers and mercenaries from the outside. They'll have a place to stay, and we can raise an army and bring battle to these rebels.
And who will be building this barracks with our rabble currently arming themselves?
We will.
You will? Yourself?
Our citizens, the workers we've brought in, under guard of the soldiers from the magnanimous Magmalo.
That is what we're called. No, it's not. I made that up.
We have to build it quickly, otherwise it's going to become an immediate and obvious target.
Terrific. That's excellent. They want to target the place where all the soldiers are? It's not like they have sophisticated arms and armor. That would be suicide for them.
Well, they don't exactly have sophisticated arms and armor.
Except for they've taken off the people they've killed already.
No, our soldiers tend not to use such advanced technology.
No, I mean the rebels don't have sophisticated arms and armor. They're not a trained army. They're a rabble. If they attack the barracks, only...
I thought you were saying the Magmalo have sophisticated arms and armor, and that is just simply not true.
No, they certainly have sophisticated arms that were attached. However,
No, just the claws and fangs. Everything else is normal.
the rebels are even worse off. If they attack the barracks, that's death for them.
True, they don't have claws and fangs made out of many materials.
We keep adding complexity to these forces. How many
Oh, you
eyes
gotta
do
see
they
it sometime.
have?
Two? Like normal, unless they're from a species that has more than 2 eyes.
Busted. They have an above average amount of eyes.
I mean, I assume if there's at least one of them with an above average amount of eyes, that technically does raise the average across the board.
Unless one of them is missing an eye. But
Then we're back to
getting off
normal.
track.
Well, no, and not only that, but I think you're misspeaking here, Magmalo. You don't want somebody who's got an above average number of eyes. Most people tend to have an above average number of eyes. Generally, eyes cap out at 2. So what you're really looking for, what you really wanted to say, is if somebody had above the median number of eyes, because the median number of eyes is going to be 2, right? You look at it statistically speaking.
You know, the second I said it, I had that thought, and I was hoping nobody would be so pedantic.
I must say this is not particularly helpful for planning the city.
Yes, we should talk about the barracks.
Bruh!
Bless you.
I mean, we could always try boring the rebels to death. We could always try that. That might be fun. Turn pedantry into a weapon. That's new. Has that been tried? I don't think so.
You were not there 200 years ago.
In the Analects of Ignatius Ordovasius, yes, pedantry was attempted. Some gains were made, but ultimately they just stabbed the pedant.
You were stricken from the records. Okay, we're done being silly now. We shall carry on.
I unfortunately think I might have to dispute this on the bounds of this complication. I think bringing in more weapons and armaments simply provides the rebellion too tempting a target. I think bringing in already armed and armored individuals is going to be more. I fear this would only worsen the situation.
Well, and I'm tempted to second this, but I do want to say that that's motivated not because I think that the barracks would be necessarily a weak target, but I think it might be a might touch unsightly, being right next to our big beautiful stadium. You know, like the brutalist architecture for the most barracks tend to employ. It just it doesn't really look nice. So
We can make it ornate if you like.
That would only further my complaint. I agree to
It
your
would remove
point,
my seconding, though.
person.
I guess this is an opportunity to establish what kind of architecture we use in our nation.
I would simply say that your point, councilperson, that a fully constructed barracks would be an excellent place for the rebels to focus an assault. A well-fortified, well-equipped, and supplied barracks with Empire troops and mercenaries would make for a wonderful killing field. An incomplete barracks be needing the supplies and materials to create such a defensible area is, however, I believe, too tempting a target to build at this time. That is my basis for this dispute.
I have a thought for you then. What if it doesn't start as a barracks? We engage in a bit of trickery. We build it as housing for the professional teams. That would explain the ornateness and the quality of materials. And then we stuff it with soldiers when it's finished.
And I do have another counterpoint. if the rebels see that more forces are going to be coming in, this place is going to become more well defended, that might get them to back down. That might cause them to pull back to become less of a problem. And yes, we would have to be building a barracks from nothing, but we can't do much about the fact that we didn't have one to begin with. We need to show them strength and that we are not going to give up this land.
I concede that that is a possibility. I think I shan't rescind my dispute on the basis of conflict. However, if no council person agrees that this has that they believe that this will worsen the situation, if it is not seconded, then of course nothing will come about of it, and simply we will ratify this new barracks in secret.
I think we have given them 2 chances to surrender. Well, first, peacefully, behind a wall, and secondly, at the hands of our soldiers. So now I think it's time to just kill them all. Start fresh.
Are there any seconds or non-complication related disputes that any council person would like to bring forward at this time? Then, without dispute, this project has been ratified.
Thank you.
Please note it, and as well as your addendum to the road infrastructure.
Oh, yes. In order to link the stadium to the greater empire, I propose we build a road from the stadium all the way to the west, all the way to the east, outside of the current territory, connected to one of the main roads. This will make it easier for troops, material, and mercenaries to come into town, but also guests of the stadium.
Definitely guests of the stadium. I like this plan. I like this plan a lot.
Very well. It is so ratified.
Councilperson Chuckwaller.
Well, seeing as my fellow councilperson seems to have the current struggles and crises well in hand, I would like to turn my eye now towards the future. And the way I see it, we got this big, beautiful stadium, and we got collections of people who are in peak physical condition. But the thing is, in both athletics and soldiery, what one often finds is that those are the kinds of occupations which one might suffer some sort of personal injury. And so, my proposal is that, in addition to building the barracks, we build ourselves, and it's not going to be like some sort of common sick house. What I'm thinking is we find ourselves, we build ourselves the facility in order to attract the kind of talent, the sorts of people who know how the body works, right? People who know how one part of the body fits to the other and how they all work together. We make ourselves an institute of anatomy, and then we're going to put it right there, probably far side of the road from the barracks, right next to the stadium. It's a physical therapy and institute of anatomy. And see, the benefits that this gives us is threefold. First off, we got ourselves our fighting men, and they're going to need some sort of treatment and good physical training. Second off, we got ourselves the athletes, who not only do they have one of the finest stadiums in the entire empire that they'll be competing in, but they will have some of the best trainers, some of the keenest minds in the motion of bodies, ready and waiting to ensure that they are in peak physical condition. And third one, this is the interesting one. This is the one that I think is going to be what really puts it over the top for y'all. When one understands how the body works, when it's alive, one might also be able to find themselves some keen insights on how the body works after it's dead. Now, we all know that certain members of the workforce, the ones that are past their stage of breathing, they suffer from certain lacks of coordination, various kinds of denigration, the smell, obviously. And what if within that gift of unlife, we could find ways to prolong and to improve the laborious output of those thralls which are utilizing their gift of unlife in order to give glory to the undying emperor. And so that's why I'm proposing we build ourselves a big old research hospital.
Councilperson Chuckwalla, this seems like a large investment in an area of study which is not guaranteed to bear fruit, if in my assessment.
No venture is ever, and I've said this before and I'm going to say it again, no venture is ever guaranteed to bear fruit. Now, we're doing our best out here, but this settlement, the charge that we have been given from the Undying Emperor himself, all glory to the Undying Emperor, this venture that we have been entrusted with, which we are planning and we are building, is not guaranteed to bear fruit of any kind. And tell you what, if it doesn't, that's on us. That's on each and every one of us for not living up to the expectations that have been put upon us by the Undying Emperor. Glory to the Undying Emperor. And do you propose that we shirk this responsibility? Do you propose that we stand back from the face of progress, from the face of finding new and exciting and wonderful ways to give glory to the Undying Emperor? Just because, hey, it might not work? Do you think that the Emperor's trust is misplaced? In us? In you?
I happen to believe that this is a capital idea, and the right gentleman should proceed. Due to our distance from the capital city, where the finest college of anatomy exists, the first imperial college of anatomy, in fact, and due to the distance in these lands from any other nearby colleges of anatomy or medicine, I think that we could establish ourselves as an important place in this area of the empire, perhaps even becoming a regent capital, once well established. This would put us on the map.
Indeed, it's dreaming big. It's having ambition. The Empire has not succeeded in the way that it has. The Emperor, praise his name, has not succeeded as he has by hedging his bets. Sometimes you have to take a leap, and understanding and knowing things is helpful, and improving the productivity of the workers is helpful. And who knows, maybe we can even use a little problem up on the cliffs and have some research be done into what causes people to rebel. See if maybe there's some way to correct that habit.
Well, this council appears quite in favor of this particular project. I confess I don't feel as though it is all that necessary. However, much like other projects currently ratified, I don't feel as though it's a detriment to this city at this time.
Well, and that's the kind of thinking that's that got you to Administratics 3rd class.
It may even get you to first class one day.
Ooh, all the way to 1st class. How do you like that? Fun title. Administratics 1st class. Love to spoon a verde. Hey, maybe putting a city on the map's a good way to get there.
Another city on the map, yes.
All right. We will begin work immediately on the new college. Now, thinking about the roads, seeing as we are building in ourselves some good infrastructure, perhaps, given the nature of the research that's going to be going on there, we're going to go ahead and build ourselves a road that'll lead from the camp past to the site of the hospital over to the barracks. just so that it's easy to get between those.
Nice.
Very well.
Indeed, make it easy to get the specimens to where they need to go.
And Administratix Third Class Lovitus Bonaventure, we would hear from you.
Indeed. I think there are many things that this city still yet lacks, I believe. I think that this bar, this place for libations, I propose we take the current use of fermented spirits and such, and we convert this from a bar. I've heard tell of the ability to use such liquids for flammable deterrence, and I think that with this area being so unruly, so well difficult, I think converting these libations and placating measures, they're no longer necessary. What is necessary are tools of subjugation and war. And after observing the local region, I believe we could distinguish ourselves in this way. We already will have a good number of more educated individuals who know about the natural sciences. Why not use that in conjunction with these processes that have already been set up to supply this bar to take care of many problems at once? That is my proposal to the change, as a change to this saloon of sorts.
Aren't you afraid it might send the wrong message to the citizens of the Empire? Make them think that the situation is not under our control by taking away their leisure and replacing it with means of war. For all we know, we could have this in hand before the year ends.
What could be more emboldening to a citizen of the Empire than seeing their own city and its resources being used to destroy dissidents? That would fill any noble-hearted Empire citizen with pride.
I'll cut to the chase. I dispute this.
I second the dispute. I don't think it's necessary, and I think it sends the wrong message to the people.
Yes, why destroy the bar? Why not just build a separate apothecary?
Build something separate. That sort of research can be done in the hospital.
You're just mad because no one clapped during open mic night.
I've never attended this. What is it called?
Open mic night. That's where anyone can get up and sing.
Poor Mike.
That wasn't them. That was a child making a joke with a broom and mop.
It was quite the party.
Well, my proposal has been disputed successfully by other members of this council, so by the charter, it must be discarded.
The bar stays.
The bar stays.
If you would like to proposition a separate building where we make weapons of war by way of alchemy, I'm definitely listening. But the bar, I'm afraid, is important.
As
Gotta work
For
hard, you gotta play hard.
measures of state.
anyway, before my time,
Wait.
before my time
No.
closes.
With further inspection. I may have been premature in my dispute.
Is this so?
Well, I still think city has use for bar. We can simply make a new one. Yes?
Of course. It would be very simple to propose such a thing.
Now that's I think a point that I disagree with you on. There's something about a place that's got a bit of history to it, a place that's been around for a while. You know, it's your familiar drinking establishment. You know the routine, you know the ritual. You know, sometimes you just want to go to where everybody knows your name. And you make some new place, or worse yet, you make a lot of new places, it loses something special. I like the bar being where it is.
Proposal to you, Chuck Waller.
Mhm.
If I rescind my dispute, would you use yours?
Would I use mine? Now that is itself an interesting question because, to my mind, as proposed, shutting down everybody's favorite place to go for a drink after a long day of work, even if we're building something else that's new, I would say yeah, then that might be worth disputing. However, there's some other ideas. You know, looking out on this big beautiful place, when I saw the potential that hill held, looking over the big beautiful bird skeleton. Now, I think the point that I disagree with Lovey here on is we're not past the need for distraction. We have not somehow transcended the benefits that placation and libation might offer. My proposal, however, is sure, anybody knows how to make something you can light on fire and throw at somebody. You can make any number of things that can kill a man, but it's a mite shade more difficult to find something that'll make a man feel so good that he won't want to fight anymore. So, we've got this facility here. We've got a place where people can go to enjoy themselves. What if, instead of coming up with more ugly ways of showing what happens to people who deny the glory of the undying emperor, a worthy cause to be sure, we find ourselves, or we take that place and we turn it into something that can be an avenue for discovering new ways of experiencing the delights and the joys of giving glory to the undying emperor. Not a means of destruction.
What a means of distraction.
A means of distraction, exactly.
And convincing.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very least, it could get them to let the god down.
I feel like you didn't fully answer the question, but instead placed your own counterproposal. So if you don't mind, I'll answer. I would dispute it if you withdrew yours.
I withdraw my dispute.
Then I use mine.
Is anyone going to currently second that dispute before I respond to what has been said?
I
Under-
dispute your current proposal. No offense
Understood.
to yourself.
Ah,
But
there's
Councillor
no
Chuck
offense.
Waller does provide an interesting alternative that I think could use more exploration. But I don't believe it is necessary to replace the bar with an alchemy lab.
Well,
That feels like an overreaction in light of the current situation.
I feel like you just want to get rid of the bar because you hate joy.
He's got a point.
my likes and dislikes are irrelevant in the process of planning a city.
Oh, yes, your biases don't matter. The rest of our biases matter, but yours, no, you're completely impartial. I don't believe that for a second.
Come on, Lovey.
You're just mad because you can't drink.
I will amend my proposal thusly. I think that the councilperson Chuck Waller's idea is not without merit. I think that a slow transition of this establishment to less libation and more distraction, as it was put. Something that is not simply of use to distract the mind from worries, but maybe distract the mind from anger or dissension. I know there have been many scholars and projects within the Empire for ways of making individuals forget or lose the motivation to act upon dissident and countercultural thoughts and ideas, if we can use these alcoholic spirits to find such a concoction, I think that would be. And of course, maybe it will work out that such a concoction, if diluted, may still be a libation individuals would like to take. Then that would be acceptable. How would the council receive that amended proposal?
My dispute stands. Just build a separate one.
I am open to the possibility of adapting and altering the bar to be something bit greater than it already is, so I will rescind my dispute.
Well, now, of course, Counselor, I could, of course, propose a laboratory be created, but that is unfortunately not the proposal I made at this time. So, for the proposal in front of the council today, you have disputed it. Is there anyone who would second that dispute, or would like to speak to me further before doing so?
Not from me.
I regrettably think I must let this pass.
Very well. Then I will inform the current administrators working on the bar on their new task, and we shall see how this new direction bears fruit. I, as well, for my addendum to the road structure, I'm simply going to shorten the road leading to the cliff that is not directed towards the mines to give any potential dissidents more difficulty reaching the actual city center. It's much easier to watch one road than two.
There's wisdom in this.
All right, well, disappointments aside from aggrieved parties, Councilwoman LaFleur, your project.
I noticed there's one part of this land that we haven't paid much attention to, and I think it's just a shame to leave a resource untapped. There is the lake with the creatures within it. I believe, for the purpose of both research and gathering resources, because we need to secure our access to the clean water as well as the food this can provide, I propose putting a docks of sorts. Something that we that the people in the city control on the lake, so people can be able to go and fish and collect water and study. And perhaps this could provide some leisure recreation for people for citizens who prove trustworthy, and they can be allowed to go out and fish at their leisure once they've been proven trustworthy.
Now, I agree that this is a good idea. The question is it a good idea right now?
Well, if there's fighting going on, we need to make sure that we maintain control of the biggest source of water in the area. Not only would we be preventing any potential attacks on the water and that source of food, it could also divide the attention of the people causing trouble, and it's a good way to show them that we are not afraid.
Councilor LaFleur, I would request some clarification on the intended use for the citizens of this pier. I heard fishing and relaxation and security. I don't know if all three of those may coexist. I feel as though the smell and process of trawling fish from this lake may make it an undesirable location for relaxation and leisure.
The leisure was a tertiary possibility. My primary focus with proposing this is maintaining control of the water source and the other resources we can get from the lake. But if we establish that foothold before anyone else can, then we have no need to worry that the rebels might try and cause problems with that. because we will have people and resources there to act if they do.
Then potential addendum. We tried once to wall off the people, but we left them egress in and out of their area. We specifically denied starving them out, but we could do that now by walling off the lake, which is probably their main source of food.
It is certainly one of the few sources of drinkable water in the area. The main one, at the very least.
If we allow our citizens to take command of the lake and draw a bounty from it, that will discourage them from using it, and it will give us value intelligence on their movements as they come in and try to make deals with our own people to get access to food.
Indeed, and if we wall off the water, I do see the wisdom in that, but then that will cut our access off from it. And if we build in a way for us to access it, that's a weak point that they could then use to go in and establish their own control.
True.
That's my main concern, though I do see the wisdom of where you're coming from with your counter proposal.
I actually think that we have that problem solved. With an entryless wall, it would mean that no distance would be able to sneak in, especially if we keep guards to make sure it's not scaled. However, is it not my understanding there are tunnels beneath our new laboratory and citizen re-education facility that could reach the bottom of the lake?
If you recall, anyone who tries to enter the tunnels gets repelled or lost or something.
That would be a good viable option if we knew that was reliable. As it is, there's still not much we understand as we have been working to block off the tunnels, so with the positioning of the dock, we could perhaps block off the one that's in the lake, or at least be able to keep an eye on that as well. Seeing as we don't know what led to the creation and existence of these tunnels.
I think the tunnels will have to wait, though I do believe that they are an untapped tactical advantage. In the meantime, the proposal is about the lake.
Indeed.
Yeah, planting a dock on the lake to secure the water source and the resources.
It is, after all, just a dock.
Yes, and perhaps maybe have like an area where people can do some research into the magical properties.
My thought would be, if we are going to construct this, I think that it should be a dock with a fortified, maybe small garrison or watch post. Otherwise, I feel
Yes.
it would be too unfortunate. So maybe
Yes, adding a barracks.
Yeah.
Yes, add additional security.
Perhaps disguised as a fish and game wardenry.
Yeah.
Yes, we can disguise it.
Once again, the barracks is still a secret, so we would need to keep this a secret. That way, if they do attack, we have people on hand, and they don't realize what it is until it's too late.
I do indeed like the idea of clamping down on any poaching in the area.
Indeed, and that way we can that also gives us another direction from which we can send men into the cliffs. Send soldiers. And it cuts off another route they could potentially use to come around and cause trouble. We'd be blocking them off from their homes.
Well, and if they think, if what we tell folks is that up that shack there to keep the people that are keeping folks from poaching the Emperor's fish out of this here, which is the pond, then they might get bold enough to think, well, okay, well, shoot, if I can come down for water, and then we can follow on back, or we can for surveillance, reconnaissance. I think that whatever measures need to be taken in order to secure the lake and potentially do it secretly, I think that's well worth our time. Especially if we can get a look at what's going on inside that lake. That is intriguing.
As well, it would make sure that the dock is not vulnerable to these creatures, whatever
Of course.
they may be from, if they take umbrage with the construction.
I think it all makes sense to me. Any disputes?
None.
Very well. Well,
Very
unless
well.
we hear a dispute, then it has been ratified. Please create it, and as well any adjustments you have to the current structure of the roads in the city.
So a dock and warden.
Let's move this section of road. Relocate this so might throw them off their game, and that way we don't have unnecessary road and its more direct connection to the docks.
I see, yes. Take the road connecting the city to this new place and make sure that it runs through our new docks and warden so that all traffic to and from the lake is observed. Very prudent, Counselor.
That will conclude this 6-month term. We will rejoin again, see the fruits of our labor, and then proceed onward. Hopefully, we can deal with this rebellion in a reasonable time frame. In the meantime, what I would like to do is, before we adjourn the episode of Game Woven, which is a podcast that you are listening to currently, what we will do is we will vote on who caused the most discord, and then that person will get to give it a good long think about their complication for when we rejoin. Are we all ready?
I was gonna say the complication as the end, but that's kind of up to the team.
Let's get the votes in, and then
Mhm.
if whoever it is has an idea in mind, we'll like sure throw it out. If you don't, but I'm cooked. I'm not gonna be able to make it.
Yeah, I am
fair.
fucking pretty well done over here.
All right. Well, we can vote on who's caused the most discord at the very least.
Are we ready? 3, 2, 1. It's a tie.
Ooh.
Indeed. So we have 2 votes for Ben, 2 votes for Rob, and 1 vote for Lex, which means that Ben and I will both make a complication, I believe.
Then to war it is, sir.
Man, I almost voted for myself.
That would have been so funny.
Well,
I
we
wasn't sure.
So there are going to be 3 total complications because Ben and I each make a complication.
Mm-hmm. Fun. Messy. We love messy.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Game Woven. For this arc, we are starting with the game The City Planning Department, which was designed for the Wasaga Beach Game Jam in 2018 by Keelan Doyle Myerscough, Andrew Tran, Alex Dawson, William Wu, Paul Geldart, and Raul Altosar. This game also features the voices of Robbie Rowling, TTBenjamin, Zadkiel Vaske-Huff, Lex Olden, and Brianna Jean. You can follow us on social media at GameWoven, support us at patreon.com/GameWoven, or over on the One Shot Podcast Network.